Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Gift of Health Total Tuesday Wellness. So let's make sure if you guys are able to hear me and see me. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to. Okay, so just give a thumbs up if you're able to see me and hear me properly before I get started. And let me know like where you guys are joining from too. Okay, hi. So you guys are able to see me. That's excellent. Okay. So welcome everyone. And for those of you who are meeting me for the very first time, I'm Dr. Shobha Rayapudi, a both certified lifestyle medicine doctor, and I'm also co-founder of Gift of Health, where we actually help people struggling with chronic diseases, including but not limited to heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, arthritis, and other chronic conditions to break free from those diseases, reduce your dependence on medication, and have more energy. And February being the Heart Health Month, I would say this is a precious month to raise awareness about heart disease because February is known as the Heart Health Month. Okay, so are you guys ready to learn about some simple steps that you can take to prevent heart disease? And let's say even if you have experienced that, like what can you do to halt the progression and reverse your heart disease? Okay, so are you guys excited about this? Amazing. So here's the thing. Last week, since it's Heart Health Week, we did couple things throughout this month. And if you guys didn't have access, for example, we like on our Facebook, like we offered a free 5 days to a healthier heart. Like we shared email post regarding like what are the some of the things. I mean, basically to understand how heart disease happens, what are the risk factors for heart disease, like what are the steps that you can take, because a lot of people think that like when your heart vessels are blocked, that's when you get heart disease and maybe that you cannot do anything. But even though you have complete blockages in your heart vessels, you can do something about it. You can also, like when it comes to heart blockages, you can also reverse them. That's what like we covered. We also provided free resources, free documents, like for example, like what are the different types of fats that are harmful, as well as what are the fats that are protective for your health. We shared foods that protect your heart or fats that are good for your heart. We shared that document. And we also ran a challenge. We ran a 5 day a 5 days to a healthier heart challenge, which was also again offered free. And last week in Gift of Health Total Wellness, we actually covered a little bit comprehensively about what is that you can do to prevent your next heart attack. How can you make your plaques stable so that you don't get next heart attack? So if you have missed those, I highly recommend that like you catch up, watch last week's Eat to Beat heart disease. So that was the theme. And today, actually, I want to take a little bit further. You guys are also welcome to ask questions. So I'll make sure that I leave some time for some questions and answers. So feel free to type in the chat. And it's so good to see you. So welcome, Mary. So Mary's from Woodstock, Ontario. So good to see you guys. Okay. So I asked this, I mean, I covered this last week, but let me ask you this. What do you think increases your risk of heart disease? Let's say if you have high blood pressure, what is the likelihood that you're going to get an heart attack? Or what's the risk of your heart disease if you have high blood pressure? Any guesses? So let's say if you have attended previous session, any guesses? Did you know that like if you have high blood pressure, there is 3 times increased risk of having heart disease? And can you guys guess the number for diabetes? So let's say if you have diabetes, you have 4 times, your risk goes up by 4 times of having heart disease. And let's say if you have high cholesterol, your risk of getting heart diseases increases by 4 times. But guess what? For people who have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and diabetes, if you have all of these 3 conditions, your risk goes up by 40 times more. You are more likely, 40 times more likely to get an heart attack if you have all these 3 conditions. And like that's what we covered last week. And as I said, like if you missed last week's session, so feel free to watch that. And unfortunately, if you see, like heart disease is the leading cause of death globally. In Canada, of course, cancer is the leading cause of death, but in US, heart disease is the leading cause of death. And a lot of people also wonder, so who are the doctors who can actually treat this condition or help us prevent and reverse heart disease? So you may have heard of lifestyle medicine or lifestyle medicine doctors. If you have not heard, lifestyle medicine is a medical specialty that actually uses evidence-based, whole person, prescriptive, intensive lifestyle changes as a primary modality to treat. And when used intensively, they reverse these conditions. They reverse heart disease, diabetes, and like other chronic conditions that we see nowadays. Okay. And when it comes to finding doctors who are lifestyle medicine certified, like you can go to various sites. For example, American College of Lifestyle Medicine, like you can find doctors near your area. So there are a couple of sites like a Plantation Project, Plant-Based Docs, like where you can just search for lifestyle medicine doctors who are certified to actually help people reverse these conditions, because it's very important to know. And first of all, I want you guys to know that heart disease is reversible unless you are among that 1% of the population which is which has heart valve disease or some congenital disease. But if you're not suffering with that, for remaining people, heart disease is reversible. Okay. So, like today, I just want to dive in a little bit about like when it comes to heart disease, we do like what is the number one thing that comes to your mind if you want to prevent and reverse disease? Like if or if you have heard the advice, what is the number one thing that comes to your mind? So you might be thinking, oh, maybe let me okay. So, like most of you might be thinking, maybe I need to cut down on my saturated fat. Maybe I need to cut down on my sugar. So, like when it comes to if I need to prevent and reverse heart disease, but when it comes to fat, many people have misconception, and not all fats are created equal. So today, like briefly, like I'll just go over to give you little bit idea about when it comes to fats, what are the different things. And even like when you look at fat deposition inside your body, like did you know like there are three types of fat? For example, uh when you pinch your body, so the fat underneath the skin is called the subcutaneous fat, right? And the fat that is surrounding your belly and the deep organs, it's known as the visceral fat. And the fat that is deposited inside your muscles, inside your liver, that is known as ectopic fat. So technically, there are three types of fats: subcutaneous fat, visceral fat, and ectopic fat. And again, of these three fats, do you know which is the most dangerous one? Because a lot of people think that, oh, I'm not that overweight, I'm not that obese, I can't imagine why I got heart disease. So it's the visceral fat, which is more prone to heart disease, diabetes, and other inflammatory conditions in your body. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen so that like you guys can uh, experience this. So this, okay, let me. Okay. I hope you guys are able to see the screen. So here, uh, as I mentioned, not only like how the fat is stored in your body, but when it comes to fat per se, there are three different types of fats. So one is called the trans fatty acid. Second one is called saturated fatty acids. And the third one is unsaturated fatty acids. Again, the unsaturated fatty acids are divided into MUFAs, or known as monounsaturated fatty acids, and PUFAs, also known as polyunsaturated fatty acids. Again, in unsaturated fatty acids, when it comes to monounsaturated fatty acid, they're not considered essential. Why? Because your body can produce them. But when it comes to the polyunsaturated fatty acid, that is something that your body cannot produce and you must consume in the diet. So that's why a lot of people are confused. Okay, I'm recommended that I should eat fat, but the type of fat that you should be consuming is the polyunsaturated fats, right? Okay, so let us see examples of saturated fats. Okay, so when it comes to when it comes to the saturated fats are naturally found in all animal-based foods such as meat, poultry, fish, dairy products such as butter, cheese, milk, yogurt, sour cream, ice cream, whipped cream, eggs, and also in some plant foods, including vegetable oil, coconut oil, palm oil, cocoa butter, coconuts, and nuts. So what you would notice is the saturated fats are powerful triggers for insulin resistance. Like within hours of entering into muscle and liver cells, they inhibit the ability of your muscle and liver to uptake glucose from the blood. So, while small amounts of saturated fat do not pose a significant threat, so like as long as, for example, like if you're just having 1 to 5 grams per day, that doesn't pose a significant threat. But if you're consuming more than 10 grams per day, it creates insulin resistant state. They also increase free radical production in mitochondria. And so basically, what do the saturated fats do? They reduce the ability of your tissues and muscles to utilize glucose as fuel. They impair the ability of pancreas to manufacture and secrete insulin. And saturated fats, they actually increase your LDL cholesterol more than the dietary cholesterol. Because a lot of people think, okay, my cholesterol does not increase because I consume more cholesterol. But guess what? When you consume more saturated fatty acid, your cholesterol levels goes up, because saturated fatty acid itself is the major risk factor for increasing your cholesterol, and also a major risk factor for acute coronary event. So if you look at the saturated fats, they have a direct association with increasing inflammation. They alter your gut microbiome. They are independently associated with the secretion, I mean loss of protein in your urine, and indirectly they increase your LDL cholesterol. They increase plaque buildup inside the arteries. They decrease the blood flow to kidney and increase the cardiovascular risk. So if that's what saturated fatty acids are doing, guess what? The other kind of fat, which is trans fatty acids, again, these trans fatty acids are a type of fat that occur naturally in very small quantities in beef, pork, lamb, butter, and milk. I would say when I'm saying small quantities, they range from 1 to 10% of total fat content. But what you would notice is majority of trans fat in people's diet actually come from partially hydrogenated vegetable oil. It is a process to convert unsaturated fats to saturated fats to turn liquids into solids for the purpose of creating spreadable products that have long shelf life. So, for example, you might have heard of margarine. And if you're in India, you might have heard of dalda. They are deceptively marketed as zero cholesterol. Trans fats are hidden everywhere in processed foods and also found in products made from partially hydrogenated vegetable oils. So, like if you look at any store-bought cakes, cream-filled candies, cookies, biscuits, breakfast sandwiches, muffins, dairy and non-dairy coffee creamers, crackers, ready-to-use dough, microwave popcorn, pies, donuts, and processed meats. The thing is, when it comes to trans fat, it causes more metabolic damage than cholesterol and increases the risk of cardiovascular disease, stroke, and atherosclerosis. It directly elevates LDL, it reduces your HDL, it increases your risk of vascular inflammation. And guess what? Like, and this is very important, like if you're used to eating a lot of cakes, candies, cookies, basically those foods are rich in trans fat. And the other thing that they cause is they cause cognitive decline, dementia, depression, and they directly impair the ability of beta cells to respond to glucose. So this is what happens with trans fatty acids. And now there are other kinds of fats which are known as unsaturated fatty acids. So guess what? Where are these unsaturated fatty acids present? This unsaturated fatty acids, they are the least harmful of the three types of fats. And actually, they offer significant protection against the development of insulin resistance and heart disease. And as I said, they're again divided into monounsaturated fatty acids and polyunsaturated fatty acids. Again, remember, which are the essential fatty acids? The polyunsaturated fatty acids. Why? Because your body cannot produce them. Whereas monounsaturated fatty acids, your body can produce them. So, like most of the whole plant foods contain unsaturated fat. Okay. And now, like now you might be thinking, okay, where is most of the saturated fat in our diet is coming? Because a lot of people think, okay, when it comes to oil, olive oil is healthy, right? Because it's also touted, like how do they sell olive oil? They tout that it is rich in omega-3s, but let's really look at the facts. When you look at the percentage of saturated fat, if you look at milk, 65% of the fat in milk is in the form of saturated fat. 50% of the fat in beef is saturated. And 30% of the fat in chicken is saturated. And guess what? 14% of the fat in olive oil is saturated. So the other 86% doesn't raise your cholesterol levels, but this 14% raises your cholesterol levels. So technically, by health standard, it's not healthy. Because do you guys know what is the percentage of calories that can come from the fat if you're consuming saturated fat? So like American Heart Association and a lot of the health authorities says that your saturated fat consumption should be less than 6% of your total calories. You don't want to exceed that. Okay. So some of you might be wondering, what is the example of saturated fats? What are some of the common examples of saturated fat? So if you look at certain foods, so look at this, a whole coconut. I'm talking about 1 cup shredded, has 20 grams saturated fat. Okay. If you're consuming a 2000 calorie diet, and when we say 6%, less than 6% should be saturated fat, technically that means 300 calories can only come from saturated fat, which technically means 33 grams of fat. So the total saturated fat consumption per that day, you don't want to go more than 33 grams of fat, right? Even within that 33 grams of fat, you want to limit the saturated fat. Most of that 33 grams of fat, you want it in terms of polyunsaturated fat, right? Because when you consume that polyunsaturated fat, it's not only preventing you from diseases, it's giving you the essential fatty acids. Remember your omega-3s and omega-6, they are examples of polyunsaturated fats, and they are essential, and you need to get them from diet. So what you need to consume is the polyunsaturated fats, not the saturated fat. Even within that 33 grams of fat that you're consuming, you want it mostly in the form of polyunsaturated fat. And the saturated fat, you want to limit to, if you're on a 2000 calorie diet, you want to limit to 13 grams. Not more than that. Even by that standard, if you look, like whole coconut has 20 grams of saturated fat. Coconut, just 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, it has 11 grams of saturated fat. So look at beef, lamb, butter, palm oil, and cheddar cheese. So as you can see, like they range in higher saturated fat. Whole milk, again, 4.6. So technically, you can see this is the list of foods that have high saturated fat. If you go further down the list, if you look at the nuts, pistachios, walnuts, look, walnuts, they only contain 1.2 grams of saturated fat, but look at the unsaturated fat. So like if you look at walnuts, it's 1.2 grams of saturated fat, but unsaturated fat is 10.8, or the polyunsaturated fat is 10.8. So it's always better to go for nuts like walnuts and even pistachios. You can see it has more unsaturated fat than the saturated fat. And look at sunflower seeds. The saturated fat content is so low, it's only 1 gram, and the unsaturated fat is 9 grams. Look at tofu. So the saturated is just 0.7, whereas the unsaturated is 1.2. So technically, like you want to consume food that is low in saturated fat and high in unsaturated fat. So last week, like I did cover about how heart attacks happen. So I'm not going to cover that this week. As I said, please go back and watch your previous. So this was all covered last last week, like how a heart disease progression happens, how a plaque is formed, and which type of plaque actually causes heart disease. Because most of the people think the plaque on the left causes heart disease, whereas in fact, it is the soft plaque on the right which causes a heart attack, like when the clot formation happens in this type of vessel. And we also discussed about like how to make a plaque stable, difference between stable and unstable plaque. And we also talked about like how heart diseases can be reversed. So this was an example of the angiogram of a Cleveland Clinic surgeon who had a diseased, the main vessel supplying the heart was blocked, and technically they couldn't do the bypass surgery, or they couldn't do the stent because the diseased artery was too extended. And the other thing is he could not tolerate cholesterol lowering drug statins. So he was just left with the choice of changing his diet. And within like after changing his diet to whole food plant-based eating, so on the right hand side you can see like how the artery is looking so good. The one on the left, it just appears as if the dog chewed on the bone, right? And and you can see that like your body has the capacity to heal, and you can find remarkable changes when you give the right fuel to your body. Okay, so one is when you consume saturated fats and trans fatty acids, not only they cause plaques, atherosclerosis. But the other thing is saturated and trans fatty acid increase your visceral fat. And the visceral fat is the most dangerous fat. So you might be thinking, okay, maybe I'm just carrying some weight around. What's the problem? But if you notice, the visceral fat actually produces inflammatory markers, and that leads to cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, autoimmune disease, type 2 diabetes, cancer. So you can see the different types of fat. So this is the subcutaneous fat. And you see this visceral fat. So these are your organs. And the fat deposited in between the organs, around your belly, is the visceral fat, which is the most dangerous. It is hypertrophic, hyperplastic, and hypermetabolic. That's why it just acts like a cancer in your body. So what we did this month, so as I said, for people who are in our email list, they had a couple email series explaining about what are the steps that they can do to prevent and reverse heart disease, and how they can swap their unhealthy fats with healthy fats. So this is another interesting thing. Okay, and this was the study published in American College of Cardiology. Participants who replaced 5% of their saturated fat with equal calories from unsaturated, which I mean just polyunsaturated fat, versus substituting them with monounsaturated fats and whole grains. So if 5% of the calories are replaced with polyunsaturated fat, guess what? Your risk of developing heart disease goes down by 25%. If you replace that calories with monounsaturated fatty acids, your risk goes down by 15%. And if you replace that saturated fat with whole grain, your risk goes down by 9%. You might wonder, what are the foods that are the top sources of saturated fat intake? So when a survey was done, so this was what was found. The 5 top sources of heart-breaking saturated fat comes from, the number 1 is cheese. Number 2 was beef. The number 3rd was other fats and oils. Number 4th is milk, and 5th was frankfurters, sausages, luncheon meats. So these are the top sources of saturated fat. So then what we did is we ran a challenge. Okay, we ran a challenge where people can swap these favorite foods, where people can swap the cheese, milk, and meats to, I mean, they can swap with the healthy, unsaturated fatty. And guess what? So we ran a hearty Valentine challenge. Okay. So this was a 5 days to a healthier heart Valentine challenge, which we ran from Feb 13 to 17. And it was amazing. So in this, people learned how to swap their saturated, like unhealthy fats, how they can swap the unhealthy fats with healthy fats. And I just want to show some of the pictures. But if you're curious, like we are just going to drop the link for this Valentine challenge, because as I said, this was free. And if you were not aware that this challenge was happening, you can grab the link from here. There is still time. I know today was the last day of the challenge, but you can still join, get the free recipe book, and like you can watch the videos on how to swap the unhealthy fats to healthy fats. Okay, so here people learned how to make their pizza. So when it comes to cheese, like most of the cheese we consume in the form of pizza, right? So people learned actually how they can eat their pizzas without saturated cheese. So they learned how to make wonderful, delicious pizza, and they also learned how to make different type of cheeses. So this was blue cheese, this was regular cheese, and this is the cheese you can also add it to your pizzas. So people learned, not only they learned how to make different cheeses, but they also learned how to make different desserts. Okay, so here is where they made mangoes and cream, mango cashew cream. This is so delicious, and this is like mangoes and cream. So instead of chicken nuggets, so people learned how they can they can enjoy their nuggets. So these are like tofu nuggets, and they learned how to make French toast. And these are again like nuggets, cheese, and they made wonderful desserts, because chocolates are another thing that are loaded with saturated fat. And now people learned how they can have their delicious chocolate for Valentine's Day without compromising their health. So you can see like this are banana lollipops, some more. These are like date nut rolls. So this are, can you guess, these are actually made with black beans. And here are the black bean brownies, and look at this wonderful creation of black bean brownies. And this they just look like store bought, right? I mean, this were the amazing creations that we had for this week. So as I said, like this is the challenge has ended today, but you still have time. So if you want to grab the link and join, you're still welcome to join and take advantage of the resources that have been provided in the challenge. And during Friday, we'll be announcing the grand prize winner. And guess what? Like for people who are doing the challenge, they had daily prizes. So like for people like who are like who do the challenge task, they get a recipe book. And for people like who complete the challenge, they are entered into a grand prize drawing. And the grand prize is our 6 weeks food as medicine course. And guess what? Usually that 6 week food as medicine course is priced at $997, so almost $1,000. And the grand prize is you're getting that for free when you like join this challenge, participate in this challenge, and you have a chance to win a free seat to our signature course, which is called 6 weeks food as medicine. And this course has changed lives for many people. People who have taken this course were able to reverse their diabetes. They were able to reverse their heart disease, arthritis, acid reflux. And I mean, they found more energy. They were able to give up their medications. So it's really amazing. I mean, like, I mean, I have so many examples of amazing transformations that have happened through our 6-week food as medicine course. So that's why I highly encourage you guys, if you want to take advantage of this, and you never know, you may win that grand prize, right? Okay, so what I'll do is I'll open the floor for a few questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I would be happy to answer them. And like this whole month, we are focusing on activities like where we are increasing awareness about heart disease, where we are teaching people like how they can swap foods. So see, I mean, in this challenge, I mean, just by doing this challenge, like you are decreasing your risk of having heart disease by 25%, just by that simple act of switching the dangerous fats with polyunsaturated fatty acids. What is happening? You're actually decreasing the risk by 25%, which is amazing. I mean, just doing this 5 days of challenge is decreasing your risk by 25%, and it's making you aware, and you're learning like how to protect yourself from next heart attack. Like you know what to do so that you don't have a heart attack. Okay, so yeah, so these are the things. If you have any questions, feel free. If not, we can wrap this session. Okay, so I don't see any questions so far. I'll just give a few more minutes. If not, we'll wrap this session. Okay? Yeah. So hopefully you were able to get something out of this session. And every Tuesday, we do this Tuesday Total Wellness. Oh, I have some exciting announcements for you guys. So next week, like every time I bring in guest expert speakers, doctors, like who talk about like reversing diseases and all that. But guess what? Next week, I'm actually bringing in a person like who had an heart attack, and who survived an heart attack, and what that person did, what are the changes that person did. And that person is going to share everything, like how easy or difficult it is to make a lifestyle change, like how he was able to get rid of medications, how he was able to inspire other people to make similar changes, and what his journey was like. So it's a really interesting, and you will be listening firsthand from a person who has been able to reverse his heart disease, right? So how cool is that? So next week, be sure to join so that like you can listen to that interview. The other thing is, we know like there are a lot of people in the community, and also for people who are new to this community, they keep wondering, okay, I don't think that I can give up my cheese. It's the most hardest thing. And in March, what we are doing is we are dedicating 10 days, like from March 1st to 10th, we are dedicating those 10 days to show you as many things possible. You want to learn how to make feta cheese? So we will be doing some cooking demos. We'll be bringing in guests like who will be talking, showing you some cooking demos, giving you some tips and tricks about transitioning. So that whole week, March 1st to 10th, it's going to be a blast. So instead of like usually we conduct this total Tuesday wellness every Tuesday, but that March 1st to 10th would be every day. But for that, you need to register. So for people who are in our email list, they would be getting an email like how they can register for free and watch all this cooking demonstrations for free, where they will have access to guest speakers, expert speakers who would be demonstrating different things, who would be talking about different things. So don't lose this opportunity. And again, as I said, it is free. And we will be hosting on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you're getting that daily notifications whenever we are going live with the cooking demo. You would be able to see that. And if you're not on our email list, so make sure you subscribe. So we are just putting the link to that here if you want to join our email list. And for people who have made an extra effort to join us, I want to give you a free gift. Okay. So here in the chat, we are going to give you the document like fats that protect the heart. Okay. So we are just going to put the link here. So make sure you grab it. You can download it and enjoy it. Okay. And be sure to register for, because as I said, you need to register. It will be happening in the Zoom, and we'll be having a lot of fun learning how to make different kind of plant-based foods, like especially without oil, without cheese, without saturated fats and all those kind of things. Okay, so have a wonderful rest of the day or rest of the evening, um, no matter from which time zone you belong. So have a wonderful week, and I'm going to